Yeah, the play is a kind of variation on a book that I wrote a few years ago called The Savage, and it's a story about a boy who has lost his father, so he's filled with all kind of grief and anger, and he finds himself writing a story, and the story is called The Savage. And in the process of writing the story, he describes and writes and creates the savage so well that the savage actually comes to life in the real world. So he's this kind of imaginary being, this imaginary boy who comes into the real world. Yeah, as soon as I started writing it, I realized it has to have music because, music kind of establishes soundscape for various kind of emotional and kind of cultural conditions. So I'm hoping that the savage will have a kind of very raw, kind of eerie, savage music. There'll also be a kind of choral beat to the whole play. So there'll be some kind of choral singing or chanting, and also a kind of sweet kind of singing as well, mainly by blues friend who's called Elaine, who sings a kind of lovely kind of folk song kind of voice. And I see the whole thing as being a kind of almost like a musical structure anyway. Yeah. It is. It's set in Newcastle. It's set on the banks of the Tyne. When Blue is writing the story of the savage, he says that the savage actually exists on the banks of the Tyne. So that's where he imagines that he lives. Blue himself is a Tyneside lad. They're all kind of a Tyneside community. So yeah, it's very important to me that it's set right here, that it's written in this language, it's written in the language of Tyneside. And it's a story that merges kind of reality, a kind of very harsh reality about family and loss. And it also draws in the history of the Tyne, the history of the region. So because the savage exists on the banks of the Tyne, it draws in the history of shipbuilding, of coal mining, and also a very strange and very beautiful process of how you see the wilderness coming back. Once the old industries are gone, you see that we have seals swimming in the River Tyne now, we have curlews flying, we have amazing flowers growing where there used to be heavy industry. Oh yeah, and I mean I see my work more and more now as being for people of all ages. In some ways you could say it's a very kind of sophisticated story because it's a story about stories, about the kind of reality of stories, what it means to imagine something, what it means to be real. But it also expresses young people's great kind of yearnings, great desires, their great emotional force and their place in our society. I think that children's art is the kind of beating cultural heart of our culture. Absolutely, I think the Writing Centre is a great kind of beautiful, democratic, creative, political force really. It's something that really matters to our society today, to help to give young people their own voice, to help to encourage them to create art, to encourage them to respond to the world, and also to show that young people aren't some kind of fringe culture, but actually they really are right at the middle of our society, and without them we are nothing. And also young people are going to recreate the world, they're going to make a better world than we have. So it's really important to give them all the kind of opportunities that we can and all the facilities that we can, that they can say, yes, we're going to make a better world than you ever made it.